Hello and welcome to the brave new world of online printmaking. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to go from bare bones basic all the way to handmade, hand-pulled prints. So today we're going to start with how to make your own ink. You may be able to buy your ink online from Dick Blick, but I'm assuming that you have access to almost nothing. So I'm going to show you how to make your own ink. And we're going to start with how to make the pigment. So to do that, you're going to need a couple things. To start with, a candle, obviously a lighter. You're going to need an ink knife. If you don't have an ink knife, you can use something like a spoon, or you can use a piece of cardboard. You're going to need something that's a little stiffer than this. And you're going to need a metal pot or a pot lid. The pigment we're going to be making today is called lamp black. Obviously, you're going to start by lighting your candle. I'm using a fancy candle. It's a scented candle for two reasons. One, I like the smell, and the second reason is because it's got 2 wicks, which is going to make my life a little bit easier. Now, make sure that your metal pot doesn't have any kind of lining on the inside or the outside like Teflon, because you don't want it to give off any kind of toxic fumes when you're heating it over and over again. Also, basically, you're sacrificing this pot to the print gods because you're going to mess it up by scraping it over and over again. So you're going to take your pot and you're going to put it directly into the flame, and it's going to start collecting soot on the outside surface of the pot. So the way that I do this is I put it right into the top of the flames. You don't want to put it too close because you don't want to extinguish your flames. And you're going to see the black soot start to climb up the sides of the pot. And if you look, you see that deep, rich black color. That's exactly what you want. You guys basically get the idea. So I'm going to go ahead and set my candle aside. Now, I'm going to do this with the spoon just to prove that this actually works with a spoon. You take the pot and you scrape down the sides, and the pigment falls onto your surface. What I've got here on the top of my press bed is just another piece of plexiglass that I'm working on top of. I prefer to use an ink knife because it gets more of the pigment off of the pot. And all I'm doing is just scraping all of that soot off the pot and onto the plexiglass. You want to try and get as much of that off as you can. Go ahead and set that aside. And then you want to collect all of your soot. Now, for my printmaking students that are watching this, to get one good print, you need to do this somewhere between 3 and 5 times. So for that first dry point exercise, if you're doing a 5x7, you need to do this about 5-7 times, somewhere around there. So the next thing I'm going to need is oil. What I'm using today is canola oil. I did a couple tests last week. I took every cooking oil that I had in my kitchen, and I did spot tests with the Q-tip and Post-it notes. And what I was testing for was not drying, but how far the oil was going to bleed or spread. The best one that I had with the least amount of spreading was actually the canola oil. And the worst offenders were actually the sesame oil. So the next thing you're going to do is you're going to take some of the canola oil. I've actually got some out already. I'm going to get some on my ink knife, and I'm going to press down into my pigment. And I'm going to start mixing. If I need a little bit more, I can grab a little bit more. So you get this nice, rich, little bit loose black ink. Now this is probably only good for intaglio because of how loose it is, but you've got something that you can use to do a dry point or an etching and hand print it. Now that's great, you say, but I'm feeling a little ambitious and I want to do a large edition. So if you need more pigment, you're going to have to make more pigment. You can do that by crushing up some vine charcoal or some compressed charcoal. I like doing that by smashing it in a little bag. I've got some right here. You can make a little well in your pigment. Pour in some of the canola oil. You're going to do it the same way that we did the smaller amount, and you're just going to fold it in and press. You can kind of hear it, it's still a little bit crunchy. You're just going to keep mixing it together until you've got kind of a paste. Now the more that you mix and work this together, the smoother this is going to be, until you've got a really nice smooth consistency. And then you've got a lot larger of an amount of printing ink. And you say, that's good, but you know what? I really like some color in my life. Colored pigments can be really expensive. So where do you find some colored pigment in your house? Well, I had some old makeup I wasn't really using. So I went ahead and I took some of the tins and I pulled them out of the cardboard holder, and I used an ink knife and gouged the pigment out, which was already a nice powdery consistency. And I'm going to do the same thing over here, make kind of a little well in my pigment. Very carefully pour in some oil. Put a little bit too much. I'm going to go ahead and soak it up with the paper towel. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to fold and press the oil into the pigment. Need a little bit more oil. So I've got this nice, rich midnight blue here. Now these with the eyeshadows tend to be a little thicker. These might actually work for relief printing. There you go. Now if you want to see how these are going to look, you can take out a piece of paper. You can do a little swatch test. Here's that midnight blue. Here's some green I mixed up earlier from one of my eyeshadows. That charcoal black. And the lamp black. So that's the lamp black, charcoal, and two of our eyeshadow colors. So that's how to make ink with very limited access to resources. So I'll see you guys next time when we do kitchen litho.